Okay, welcome back to GA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. So today we're going to be discussing the biggest rivalries in Gaelic football. There's certainly been a lot of rivalries down the years, be it in Leinster, Munster, Ulster, Connacht, or even interprovincial in many ways. I thought I'd bring someone in for today's video, I suppose, just to really discuss this, to get a bit of a discussion going. And I've brought John McMahon in from the JMac Podcast. I suppose, first of all, John, how's tricks for yourself? And I suppose, how are you coping without the GA?
Yeah, I'm good, Aaron. Thanks a million for having me on. Yeah, look, I've a wee 2-month-old keeping me busy, so I think if you don't need anything else, I think that fits the bill perfectly. But yeah, look, I'm like yourself. I'm missing the GA massively, to be honest. Like, I know I'm kind of been doing the podcast the last couple of weeks to keep me busy and just kind of keep the GA flowing. But look, I'd love to have it at the weekend, and it's been a massive miss. There's only I know I'm laughing about it at this stage, but there's only so much soccer you can be watching. Like, I really do struggle to actually watch 90 minutes of soccer. Like, God, she'd be slagging me, oh, you're watching too much of it, but it's all we have really at the minute, Aaron, unfortunately. But yeah, look, it's just trying to keep busy as possible, and just to kind of keep a positive mindset on it. Like, geez, I'm always asking once how they're doing, but I think it's important to kind of look what's in front of you, kind of picture hopefully, obviously, longer evenings. We're getting dark from 7 o'clock onwards at this stage, but just look what's in front of you. Try to keep positive as humanly possible, and hopefully the government can give us a bit of a roadmap for when the GA returns, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I've been the same with soccer as well, but unfortunately I'm a Liverpool fan, so that hasn't been good viewing, unfortunately. It's been pretty dark, actually, to be perfectly honest. There's been plenty of games I've just tuned out completely, because I'm like, here we go again. But I don't know. Hopefully it changes anyway. Hopefully it picks up. We'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely missing the Gaelic football myself as well, and the hurling and just everything, just the whole buzz around it. Like, there's no news, there's nothing. Everything's just kind of a bit boring, and I suppose that's why we're having a look back at some kind of olden rivalries in Gaelic football down the years. Like, what's kind of the biggest rivalry you think of? Like, I know you're a Cavan man, obviously, but when you think of Gaelic football, I suppose in general, like, what's the one game that kind of stands out in terms of Gaelic football rivalries?
Yeah, like probably from a Cavan point of view, Monaghan has always been our biggest rivalry by a mile. But if you were to kind of look at other ones, and me and you were probably discussing this off air, but you're probably looking at Dublin and Kerry over the years, Aaron. Like, just what I know, they're not in the same province, but Jesus, they've just gone toe to toe over the years. They produced some unbelievable games of football. 2011 final, you can look back on 13 All Ireland semi-final, 2013, and which was a great game of ball, and two just terrifically beautiful sides to watch, just all out attack and just man on man, and just what you'd crave for when it comes to watching football. Galway, Mayo, Aaron, fantastic Connacht finals over the years. You can always remember, I think Conor Mortimer's last minute point to win it in 06, and just last minute drama all the time. The Meahan brothers, just so many good players on show all the time. And it's these days, them kind of rivalries are very few and far between. So that's why you got to look back to the early noughties, early 90s to look back and see these kind of good games. Because when you look back in the present times, Galway, Mayo, last couple of years hasn't really produced the goods, because Mayo were so intent on winning All Ireland, as me and you discussed in numerous podcasts. And Connacht's nearly just become an afterthought for them. And I think Connacht has really been a good stomping ground for Galway in the last couple of years, because they really have came back into themselves, and they'll obviously be looking at All Ireland contenders as well. So they have been using the Connacht as a very good lead pad for themselves. But yeah, if you look back, Galway, Mayo, Dublin, Kerry, Cavan, Monaghan, always served up. Dublin, Meath as well, always served up unbelievable games of football, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Dublin Kerry one, definitely. Like, I think you can look back at maybe some other games, like you were saying with Galway, Mayo. Maybe sometimes it's kind of flattered to deceive a little bit. Even the Dublin Mayo rivalry, in some ways, although it's been fairly prominent and fairly intense, I do think a lot of the time those games have kind of been more tactical battles. Whereas Dublin and Kerry, like, it's all out attack. And you look back, like, I have some of the games kind of listed here, like 2019. You obviously had that replay. Of course, where Kerry nearly beat Dublin. You had 2016. 2015 was probably a bit of an anomaly in many ways. Like, it was probably the worst All-Ireland final I've ever seen, but I think the conditions probably played a part that day. But 2013, I remember being at that game, and it was probably the best game I've ever seen live. And I mean, 2011 for myself as a Dublin fan, the only All-Ireland final I've ever been to, and I can tell you, like, I'll definitely never top that one again. Especially 2 years after 2009, when Dublin had been absolutely humiliated in many ways. And like, just looking through some of the kind of stats between the two down the years, like, they played each other 31 times, and what's interesting is actually Dublin only beat Kerry 11 times, which I found quite surprising in many ways, because we've beaten them 5 times since 2000 or since 2011. But when you think about it, we beat them. If we beat them in 2021, whenever the championship does come around, it'll mean we've actually beaten them the same amount of times, like half the same amount of times than in Dublin's previous history. 3 draws, of course, in there as well. 17 Kerry wins. Like, what's kind of the defining moment, do you think, in your opinion, or that defining game between Dublin and Kerry down the years?
Defining game, like, look, it's probably when football was kind of going good, and God, it's mad when you think back to it. But I really think, and I referenced there as well, like the breakthrough point for Dublin football was the 2011 final when they bet Kerry and Steve Cluxton's last minute winner. Like, that was the breakthrough moment, and that's probably, you had a really, really strong Kerry team. You had Gooch in the peak of his powers. You had Darren O'Sullivan, Declan O'Sullivan, Donaghy, absolutely everyone capable of winning many All-Irelands. I know Kerry won it in 2014, but that was probably the defining moment for football, and the Dublin dominance really are. And we haven't really seen many other teams. Well, we haven't. It's fact. Really win All-Irelands. I know Kerry sneaked in for one in 2014. So. And even, I suppose, remarking in that 2013 semi-final, like, probably, I don't, you were more than likely at it yourself. I can remember, like, the back of my hand, a great game of football, so exciting, just all-out attack, goals galore, and just a fantastic game. And like, I always kind of remark on it, it's just such a pity we don't see many games like that anymore, because we were, like, at the end of the day, our championship probably starts when we get to the semi-final points, because all the provinces aren't really great to watch. And it's so hard to know, like, is everyone just nearly given up with this Dublin dominance? Will we get to see the likes of 2013 semis, the 11 finals? Like, because when you look back to there, and you can nearly count in one hand the amount of standout games we've seen over the last couple of years. And it's mad we have to go on YouTube for a game that's what are we, 8 years ago now, and that's like, oh geez, that was an unbelievable game of football. And years later, what have we really got, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think even with the Leinster Championship as well, like, even when I was like, we'll kind of get onto that in a few minutes, like, but even looking through some of the kind of big games down the years, like, there just hasn't really been that many in the past 10 years. And look, I think it's down to obviously Dublin's dominance, but I think it's probably down to a lot of the other counties as well, like Meath and Kildare at times have kind of flattered to deceive on different occasions. And the likes of Westmeath and Laois and even Carlow and Longford in the past couple of years have actually kind of risen to the occasion a bit more than the likes of Kildare or Meath. Looking at Dublin and Mayo, I suppose, as well, like, we will get on to other counties as well. We won't just discuss Dublin, but, like, obviously, the Dublin and Mayo rivalry has been very, very prominent over the past 10 years. Like, looking back at 2006, obviously, that was the first time Mayo actually beat Dublin in the championship. I mean, that was quite the occasion as well.
It definitely was. And I have to be very careful with all my Mayo references. I've got
yeah, they're out for you now.
The last while, so apologies to any Mayo fans who've ever insulted in the last while. But it's, everyone has opinions, and it's like our souls. Everyone has
very much.
But look, Dublin Mayo 2006, the Battle of the Hill. I think you had Alan Dillon on a few weeks ago, and it was a great watch. And yeah, look, remarking on that day, it was just a siege mentality by Mayo. You kicking into the hill. You Conor Mortimer, Kieran McDonald, Alan Dillon, a peak of their powers. So to be honest with you, it really was a massive day for Mayo football, and I probably deservedly so got over the line. Was it right what they done, before throw-in from a mentality and winning point of view? Probably, because it got into Dublin's head. You seen Kieran Whelan leading them like a marching band down to the Mayo panel, and it just worked. It was a great probably idea looking back. We should probably adapt it in Cavan here if we're ever playing Monaghan. But look, I think it's just, I keep remarking on it, like, we don't really see much of that kind of crack these days, and just no one's really been putting it up to Dublin at all. And you're probably looking at the Dublin Mayo rivalry, but it's just it's just where it's at. And I Mayo have huffed and puffed trying to beat them over the years, and it just hasn't worked because this Dublin juggernaut's going to keep on going on, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, look, listen, they've come close here and there, and they've definitely tested the Dubs, but I think Dublin, unfortunately, over the past 10 years, well, unfortunately for Mayo fans, not unfortunately for me, but I mean, it's certainly been great as a Dublin fan. But look, listen, we'll swiftly move on anyway before they all come after us in the comments. But just looking through like some of the different stats between the rivalry, obviously, like interesting enough, like they 9 of the meetings, 9 of the 17 times they've played each other has been since 2012. It really shows kind of how dominant the two teams were in many ways in getting to All-Ireland finals or semi-finals. And obviously 11 Dublin wins in that time, 2 Mayo wins, 4 draws. So definitely, without doubt, a very competitive rivalry. And look, listen, I honestly thought after 2019 that was kind of the end of the rivalry. I thought Dublin had kind of put Mayo to bed. And look, listen, they came back in 2020 and they didn't win it. They didn't really ever look like winning it, really, but they came close here or there. And look, listen, I'm sure they'll be back next year, or the year after at some point anyway. But we'll move on anyway. Cavan and Monaghan, that's definitely a very interesting rivalry for yourself anyway.
Yeah, look, Aaron, 110%. Like it probably since I was been watching football solidly for the last since knee high, and special rivalry. Like I was kind of making notes before this, and there's nothing better going to Breffni Park, Clonus, St. James Park, anywhere at all for this game. It just always served up such a thriller between us. Like, in fairness, when you do look back in a couple of years, they had our number in 13, 15, and 17. But last couple of years, we've had their number. Everything changes. We obviously come with different systems to beat them. But a special rivalry, I suppose, when you look back on some of the games we did play them in 2013, Conor McManus peak of his power, probably won the game for them by himself. I think we were just probably wasteful and probably just the lack of experience, and Clonus as well, Monaghan's home pitch really, and it suited them, and it was just always hot and spicy between us. And I suppose pushing on to like the likes of 15 and 17 again, I keep remarking on him, but Conor McManus just kept pushing on and plugging on and winning the vital games for them. And I suppose when we did have recent success against them in 19 and 20, so tight games. Like it was them, the majority of them games are probably won in the last 5-10 minutes, and that is that just sums up how tight them games always were. And look, I have a lot of friends in Monaghan, and there's always a good bit of slagging and banter between us, and it's just it always serves up such a thriller. And I think when you look back on it, like Jesus, like even the most recent game we had between us, Halloween night, like Ray Gaelic kicking the last minute point against our biggest rivals, that's stuff of dreams really. And Ray Gaelic, that'll go down in Cavan folklore for the rest of his life. 2019, that was just the year of probably getting the monkey off the back, because they had our number for them previous years, and we finally got over the line against them, and it was nearly like we won all the title celebrations after that game. And yeah, it was just always so good. But I think from Monaghan point of view, when I was kind of saying it to a chap the other day, when Conor McManus finishes up playing for Monaghan, I don't really know if there's much of a replacement there for him. I know there's a couple of young lads coming through, but there's no dynamite replacement for him. So that's probably for another day's conversation regarding Monaghan football. But it was just always such a good occasion against Monaghan. And no matter what Cavan's league form was like, no matter what Monaghan's league form was like, it was all out the window, and it was just always a great game on the day. Very enjoyable over the years. Ulster Championship against Monaghan, it's the stuff of dreams when you're a Cavan player, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think looking back at 2020 last year as well, like kind of how it all unfolded after, obviously, Raymond Galligan comes on, then Thomas Galligan kicks that point, like you said, like the fact that you just kept fighting back and went on to go the entire way. Like you wonder what would have happened if Monaghan had won that game. Maybe they would have went on to win the Ulster Championship. You just never know. Like, and sometimes it can take a big win against your rivals to really kind of propel you to that next level. And looking through it here, like you've certainly met Monaghan, a number of times down the years, like 58 times in total. I think 14 wins from Monaghan, 10 draws, 34 wins for Cavan. So I suppose, definitely kind of moving forward, like how do you kind of see the Cavan and Monaghan rivalry maybe over the next couple of years? Like, you were saying it there, you kind of reckon you have their number in many ways. And Monaghan they're a strange county in some ways, because even in 2018, like they beat Tyrone, and then I think they lost to Fermanagh, I think, in the next game. So it's it's a strange one with them at times.
No, look, it definitely is, and like I know I can I've a mate that's very close with a lot of the Monaghan lads, and he knows what's going on, the ins and outs of it, and he sees what's going on at ground level. But probably for the next few years, it's like anything else. Monaghan will be absolutely mad to have our number again, but it's like anything else. We want to keep up that momentum. We want to keep beating them. Like they are our biggest rivals by a country mile, and probably, as you do say, it's just a lot. I don't want to, like, a term a Monaghan lad said to me, like, Monaghan be known as bottlers, and kind of, as you say, getting bet by Fermanagh in the Ulster Championship, like, that's unheard of. We've a fantastic record against Fermanagh in the Ulster Championship, always did and always have. Funny county, like, what you would wonder, like, a lot of the big players sometimes just don't stand up for them, like, and I know Conor McMahon is a consistent performer, but some probably look around the Hughes brothers, and like, did they really give their all? I know you've Rory Began as well, but they can be a funny county, and sometimes, as I think I remarked to you before, there's a lot of chopping and changing down in Monaghan. There's a lot of managers. I think Banty's in there at the minute. I don't know how that is sitting really at the minute. Our supporters getting behind him? I don't think so. He's getting all these big dogs in to help him coach the team. Is it working? I'm not sure. I think it was Peter Donnelly and Conor Lafferty last year, two massive GA men, great additions. Got knocked out by Cavan in the Ulster Championship. Expected far bigger things. So I think really, if Cavan want to be ambitious and try keep on maintaining that Ulster Championship competitiveness and rivalry, I do think we can push on, and just, if we do get them again, fingers crossed, keep beating them and keep the record up.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I suppose moving on, like Armagh and Tyrone, I mean, that's definitely a big rivalry down the years as well. Like, especially with the fact that I suppose it's rare to have two rivals as big as them kind of hit their dominance period at the exact same time. Like, Armagh obviously won the All-Ireland in 2002. Tyrone came back and won it a year later, beating Armagh in the final as well. And like the amount of meetings they actually had in, since 2000 onwards, like playing in Ulster finals, Ulster semi-finals. They had a meeting in the qualifiers. Like, I suppose from 2010 onwards, kind of like what you were saying before, like, that rivalry has kind of gone stale quite a lot. I think Armagh have kind of fallen off the boil. Tyrone are probably more close with Donegal nowadays, but I suppose back in the day anyway, like when you look back at the likes of Oisin McConville, Dermot Marsden off Armagh, and then Tyrone, you've Canavan, Dooher, O'Neill, Mulligan, like so many players on both teams back in the day.
Without a shadow of doubt, and like, you have to go on YouTube and look at the Armagh Tyrone games from 05 and 03. Just supremely good footballers, Aaron. Like, you had, as you were remarking, Oisin McConville, Stephen McDonald, Ronan Clark, Tyrone perspective, Brian Dooher, Muggsy, Stevie O'Neill, Peter Canavan, like some of the best players to ever play the game, essentially, Aaron. And that's why it was such a good rivalry. To just killed each other for them 70 minutes. It was just fantastic viewing all the time, and just probably Ulster Championship football at its very peak level. So much quality. The forwards on show were just the best forwards I think we will ever see in our lifetime, to be honest. Definitely looking back. And as you say, the rivalry probably has kind of stinged out in the last while, because Armagh probably have fell off the boil. They haven't been producing as many good footballers probably in the last while, to be fair to say, because last while I know the O'Neill brothers are coming up. They haven't really produced. I know JMac Clark's there, but he's on and off. He keeps traveling. He can't really make his mind up if he wants to stay or go. So they haven't really could produce like an Oisin McConville or Ronan Clark or some of these kind of boys. But as you say, Tyrone's pushing on. New management team, Fergal Logan and Brian Dooher, so they're producing players. A lot of boys coming back, serious forward line to pick from, but definitely back in the day, it was Croke Park. Some of them games are unbelievable. So many good memories from them, and yeah, Peter Canavan showing all his might and worth, and Owen Muggsy Mulligan, and like the list is endless, Aaron, and it's just such a pity we haven't seen that intense rivalry in the last couple of years, and it's probably just up to Armagh to get up to that level again, Aaron.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, in terms of the head-to-head between the two anyway, like Armagh still, they had 20 wins, there's 5 draws and 15 wins for Tyrone. But yeah, I think the 2017 game was really the kind of the nail in the coffin for Armagh in many ways. I think Tyrone won that game by like 18 points or something like that. And that's an All-Ireland quarter-final. Like, and I think, who knows, over the next couple of years with Rian O'Neill and a few others, they might push Tyrone a bit more. But at the moment with Tyrone, it's, with the new management and the new players coming through, it's going to be very hard to see how Armagh kind of reach their level. I suppose looking at Donegal and Tyrone as well, like that's obviously I suppose not a geographical kind of rivalry as such, like compared to Tyrone and Armagh, but I suppose they've kind of been the two dominant teams in Ulster, give or take. Obviously, you upset the cartilage there with Cavan and last year, but I suppose looking through some of the big games there as well, like you had the 2016 Ulster final, you had the Jim McGuinness battles down the years as well, Donegal's 2004 win, like definitely a lot of big encounters between them two down the years.
100%, and always served up a massive game in Ulster. And it's this, it probably goes back to my point of Cavan and Monaghan, the league form just went out the window every time. Like, and it's when it comes around to Ulster Championship, and I was previewing a lot of these games in Ulster Championship, like it was just, you could never really call a winner between the pair of them, because just they both teams have such an array of talent. And you were remarking on the Jim McGuinness era, even Mickey Hart era. Many of the times these guys played each other in the Ulster Championship and just served up some serious games. We've seen massive rivalries, even rows at half time. It was just so nip and tuck. And I think last year, I know it was a wet day up in, I think it was at the Donegal's home pitch, and probably a poor game of football, but that's not the usual case. Like a sunny day, and I don't know, was it up in Omer or whatever, them games in Ulster were always played, like in serious games. And I think it's so important to maintain these rivalries within Ulster and within these provinces, because there is obviously big calls at the minute to kind of say, oh, geez, the provinces aren't really worth watching. So it's so pivotal that Cavan, Monaghan, Donegal, Tyrone, Armagh, Tyrone can kind of keep these rivalries going, Aaron, just to keep the interests of everyone going, really, because like at the end of the day, these are two massive footballing counties. These are two All-Ireland contenders when they have their houses in order. And yeah, just two seriously good teams. You can never ever really call who's going to win that game when they come up against each other in the Ulster Championship or even the league, anything at all, Aaron, really.
Yeah, and I suppose with Tyrone as well, like you could really look at a number of teams really, like down the years they came up against. I suppose, Tyrone are a bit like Dublin in some ways, not really liked, kind of hated by a lot of the people around the country. But I suppose Tyrone and Dublin, like you have to look back to some of the games between them two as well. The Owen Mulligan goal, like I'll always remember that goal. It broke my heart in many ways, but I suppose, since then it hasn't been too bad. I suppose 2008 was pretty horrific, but since then it's been all right. Like beat them in 2010, and I think 2018 or 2017 we just completely wiped the floor with them in an All-Ireland semi-final. But I suppose Dublin and Tyrone, definitely some big meetings between them down the years.
Yeah, without a shadow of doubt. And God, I think it's probably the only time your heart's been broken in 20 years, Aaron. So you're not doing too bad, I suppose. Yeah. So you're not doing too bad, but yeah, definitely. Look, Dublin Tyrone. I look at 2005. Owen Mulligan's goal will always be played without a shadow of doubt. A serious goal, and I think when you look at it too, like it was always very hot and spicy between them, and it just remarks back to the point. The Ulster counties always had that bit of, I suppose, I don't know, that kind of edge. Like a lot of the players were just kind of like, you look at Ricey, McMahon and Conor Gormley and all, they were not intimidated by the Dublin lads at all whatsoever, and they just went up against them. Like I think 2008 you were referencing there as well, Tyrone had your number, but it was just due to the fact that Tyrone were coming up and they were not listening to Hill 16, they were not listening to the Dublin fans. They were just like a siege mentality. Mickey Hart had the primed, and they had your number, because it was just this Ulster mentality bred into them, just to not be bullied and just go up and just perform and deliver. And even remarking on some of the players, I suppose you have Brogans and Mulligan and 05 and flying to Mossy Quinn, a fantastic free taker, and some great games. I can always remember the dog even running onto the pitch against, I think Mosey picked them up and handed them to the refs. So just great memories like that. And I suppose remarking on all these rivalries, Aaron, it's just so important that we, when these counties do come up against each other, and I know we don't like putting pressure on people, but it'll just be so important that they can actually renew these rivalries and get good, exciting moments again, and get, like, I know people's probably sick looking at Owen Mulligan goal from 05. It's just probably the best goal ever scored in GAA history ever. But it's so important that a moment like that happens again, so we can focus on it and just stop thinking about the past all the time, because I think it's so pivotal that I think a big moment happens again, because Owen Mulligan's goal in 05 was that like the only thing that ever happened in GAA. So it's so important that there's a continuous development of these rivalries. And like 2010 as well, another great game of football. And your Brogans at your peak of the Powers, the McMahon brothers, and some of the Tyrone boys, end of an era for a lot of them boys as well. But yeah, just Tyrone, anytime they come up against Dublin, they just did not take any shit, for want of a better word, against the Dubs, and we definitely seen it over the years, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, definitely some titanic battles down the years between Tyrone and Dublin. And yeah, look, listen, I'm sure there's, plenty of other rivalries as well in Ulster, but we won't, speak about all of them. Otherwise, we'll be here for about 2 hours. But obviously, Derry and Down, I know in the 90s, like they quite a rivalry as well. Donegal and Dublin in some respects as well, like, have kind of had a bit of a rivalry down the years, like the 92 All-Ireland final, 2014, 2011, 2012, I think as well. So definitely a lot of titanic meetings down the years. But Mayo and Galway, I suppose we'll look at that one. I mean, I suppose one of the oldest and I suppose most played rivalries in Gaelic games, like 88 meetings between the two, 39 wins for Mayo, 43 for Galway, 6 draws. Like, I suppose not a lot to split them down the years, really, is there?
Yeah, not really. And I suppose, kind of, as we were remarking on it, like, I think it's just kind of like anything else. I think Mayo really always did have their kind of sight set on an All-Ireland victory, and probably just used, as I said earlier on, used the Connacht series as just kind of preparation for the All-Ireland campaign. And I think it probably is important that Mayo will probably use the Connacht in the future as more of a leap pad, because, like, if you're not getting much All-Ireland success, it is important to kind of use the games against Roscommon, use the games against Galway as preparation, because they're two very good footballing teams. From Galway point of view, it is important because, like, Porrick Joyce, he will be mad to make an impression amongst the Galway fans again for the coming year, whenever the GA does come back. And it's an important rivalry, and massive games over the years, and always, like, last minute drama. In my notes here, like, last minute drama. Yeah, some serious, like, last minute free kicks, winners, some seriously good games of football. And I suppose, you see Sligo always kind of going out early, and I know the Rossies are kind of starting to get gain the Connacht momentum again. But yeah, it's so important up in Connacht there that Galway and Mayo maybe take the Connacht thing very seriously now, because yeah, it's time someone really kind of gives Dubs a rattle, and hopefully Galway can make that step up as well, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely between Mayo and Galway down the years, all right as well. Like, and obviously big win last year for Mayo over Galway, like kind of what you were alluding to earlier. Like, I think with Mayo, like, I think for me anyway, the main thing is just to get back winning things, get back to winning trophies. Look, listen, the All-Ireland, as we were saying before, it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. It's definitely going to be, it's going to take a lot of work. And I think winning the league like they done in the year previous, winning a few Connacht titles, like, I think that will, because as I say before, like, winning breeds confidence. And, I think I always looked at the James Horan team back in 2011, 2012, 2013 as the better side of, the Stephen Rochford team. I think Rochford probably a better manager, probably a better tactician in many ways. Like, he came closer to winning All-Ireland than James Horan, but I still think James Horan, on the basis of what he's achieved, I think has done the better job than the two, in my opinion, although Horan's been there a little bit longer over 2 spells. Looking at Cork and Kerry, I mean, that's another one as well. Like, I mean, 119 games between the two. Just the 34 wins for Cork, but 73 for Kerry, 6 draws. And obviously last year, I mean, who can forget that late Mark Keane goal as well?
Oh, without a doubt. And, like, it will live long in the memory. Like, and I think I've remarked to you before, fairy tale stuff coming back from Australia and getting the last minute. Like, who would have thought that? It was absolutely piston rain in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and Mark Keane just steps up and scores an outrageous goal, a great ball pumped in by Connolly, and then bang. But it's like anything else. Cork were just so unlucky. Cork, in fairness, I know we remarked on Cork before in the podcast, but they did actually have unbelievably strong teams. But then on the other flip side of that, Kerry just had the best players to ever play the game, probably. You had Gooch, was a remark against Dublin that time, Gooch, and coming into his prime, and the O'Sullivans and O'Shea's. So they always did have Cork's number, and it was just probably a bad period for Cork football, because Kerry were just so good. They played the better brand of football. But in fairness, a couple of them games in Munster would have went to replays, and it did take the second day for maybe Kerry to probably come out on top. So that did go to show Cork always did put it up to them. But Kerry just had that supreme talent that always got them over the line. But hot and spicy, or even talking, was it Paul Galvin against Noel O'Leary? just fisticuffs there. I think the boys are laughing about it at this stage. I think was that O'Leary put his hand into Galva's mouth, and they get just going head for toe, and the lads would just have a point after the game. So that's probably the beauty of the GA as well. Some of these rivalries, the players are getting on well after the games and having a bit of crack too. So that's vitally important. But in fairness, yeah, as you remarked on it, Kerry have the record, the more wins, the more Munster titles, and rightly so, Aaron, because Kerry in their peak, yeah, they had probably the best players to ever play the game, really, Aaron, and were a joy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like even looking through, like they played each other in 2007, 2009, the All-Ireland final. I think 05, 06 and 08 they played in the All-Ireland semi-finals. Like that did surprise me actually looking back. Like I always kind of had this, I don't know where I got this thought or this illusion that 2010 was a bit of a fluke. And look, listen, maybe in some ways it was the fact they played a Down team in the final, and Down were quite good. Like they did have, Benny Coulter and a few other lads, but probably not the same as a Kerry or, a Tyrone or something like that. And they beat Dublin in the semi-final, which was a huge win for Cork at the time as well. So, they could have won another All-Ireland, like when you look back. And I suppose 2010 was probably the crowning moment for them, that at least they had something to kind of show for it. But yeah, down the years between the two, even, looking at under 20s and minor level as well, like they've always been fairly competitive. And look, listen, Cork definitely, got the big win last year, but in the next couple of years, I mean, who knows? It's definitely not impossible anyway. Like, and even Cork and Tipperary now as well, like that's kind of, I suppose, more of an emerging rivalry, really. Like Tips win, I suppose, in 2016, like that was their first over Cork since 1944. And then obviously they won the Munster title against Cork. So I suppose that's a bit of an emerging rivalry, I suppose, as well. Do you think that was maybe a once off, or do you think Cork maybe have Tips number now in the next couple of years?
Probably once off, really, and like, geez, Tipper definitely welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, look, for the year that was in it, I suppose, Aaron, and look, I know we had success the same day as well, so probably for the year that was in it, I think Cork will regroup. I know that this sponsor on board, but I'm presuming Cork will regroup from that. And look, it's from Cork's there, because it's probably not good enough to Tipperary or beat them in a Munster final, like from years gone by. It is not good enough. And then again, you have to give full credit to Tipperary. They definitely deserved their victory that day, and they were fantastic. But I think it probably is a new emerging rivalry, and it'd be great to see, Aaron, because it's like anything else. I keep saying it. It'd just be great to have these rivalries to keep us all interested in the game, because there's so much people giving out about Dublin's dominance and everything that goes with it. But it's so important that the provinces are competitive. There's rivalries and there's games to look forward to. Let's hope so. It'd be good to have another rivalry in Munster. I know that it's a small province, but it'd be great. But I hope, it'd be great to see Tip even pushing on as a county, because look, they play a nice brand of football. Mickey Quinlivan and Conor Sweeney, two great players. I think they could lead them to glory, hopefully, in the next couple of years. It'd be great to see, and it could be a new emerging rivalry, and long may it continue. Hopefully, if it does go like that, I suppose, Aaron.
Yeah, I suppose, like, look, listen, with Conor Sweeney and Quinlivan, like, even I remember kind of matching up the forwards between Tipperary and Cork last year, and then you had Colin O'Riordan in there. Obviously, he's gone back to Australia. Like, definitely, you never know. Like, it could definitely be very competitive, all right. I suppose Kerry are kind of always going to be the dominant side. Like, I don't think there's any change in that, really, and they still have, like, a really, really quality team altogether. I suppose looking at Dublin and Meath in Leinster, I mean, that's definitely one for the ages, all right. I suppose 37 wins for Dublin in the head-to-head, 9 draws, 20 wins for Meath. 2020, actually the biggest margin of victory between the two, which is actually crazy, really. Like, it only happened literally about a couple of months ago, a 21-point victory. But yeah, down the years, like, some mad games. Even 1991, like, my dad always tells me stories about that whole occasion. 4 games. The Leinster Championship was almost basically finished. There was provincial finals already played, and they were still in the quarterfinals, and they played 4 games, and Meath eventually won it, went down to the All-Ireland final, didn't win it, but got to the final. Definitely some intense games down the years. And I can't forget 2010 as well, because I'm sure some Meath fans will want me to mention that one.
I think the Dublin bias is kicking in, Aaron.
Yeah, just a little bit. I just had to bring it back there a little bit there, just for a couple of seconds.
Not that you're the best team to probably ever play the game, but barring that. But yeah, look, an absolutely fantastic rivalry. I can always remember, I think it was back in 2005, Graham Geraghty having a great game against, just kicking points from all angles. And it's just so unfortunate that rivalry has just gone down to Swanee in the last couple of years. We've seen in the 2020 final that was it Dublin won by 17 plus points, and it's just disappointing. Like, because Dublin and Meath are two absolutely fantastic footballing counties there, and like God, like even Meath players over the years. I was talking to Kevin Riley there last week, and he was remarking on, so like, you'd Stephen Bray, Keane Ward, Joe Sheridan, Graham Geraghty, Anthony Miles. Players that definitely deserve to win more Leinster titles, but obviously this Dublin dominance got in the way of that. But a seriously good rivalry, and I know you were remarking in 2010 just before the Dublin dominance, and Meath had your number that day, but like we just haven't seen enough of that. And I think the 2020 final summed it all up, because it like everyone thought, oh sure, Meath youngsters might give the Dubs a rattle. It didn't happen. It's another couple of years for these boys to probably properly come through, and it is disappointing, because like Dublin Meath, it's just a ferocious rivalry. You can even remember back in the 90s, you had Bernard Flynn and Barney Rock, all them boys going toe to toe, and we just haven't seen it. And like it is mad, because it shows how driven all the Dublin lads are. They still absolutely love beating Meath by no matter what. Even as a fan, he's absolutely love beating them, no problem at all, and it's been no problem to you. But it's just such a pity that the spice is gone. And like Meath always have had very, very good players. They've had some of the best sports to ever play in Leinster, but just have never got your number. You've always blown them out of the water, and they probably have lacked a lot of confidence in that. Players dropping away. I know you, Joe Sheridan, and he was saying that the Dublin setup's like a really well-run organisation, which it is. And just Meath aren't up at that level. Is there a problem with grassroots? Is there enough being done there? Is the funding the problem? Like, Jesus, Meath is a fantastic footballing county. Like Cavan has came up against Meath numerous times, had their number a lot of times as well. But yeah, it is such a pity, because it is probably is one of the biggest rivalries in Gaelic football. Where Meath have fallen short, I'm not sure. I just think it's just that lack of confidence when it comes up to Leinster. They're just thinking, what's the point here? Because I know that the wins early stages against the likes of Kildare and Wicklow, but I think they beat them teams that get bet by most county teams around Ireland. But it's such a pity the spice has gone out of it, Aaron, because Christ, 05, Graham Geraghty, Boston things, and the like God, if they could get a rivalry going again with them two teams, like even there's one for you. I don't know, like would it be an interesting one if you had Dublin against Meath down in Park Tulshan and Navan, Aaron? That could even be an interesting one, because obviously this Meath team is starting to come slightly good again. All the young lads coming up, just to create a bit of excitement again. Because at the end of the day, Aaron, it's not doing anyone good to watch. Like even the 2019 final, Dublin steamrolled Meath again.
Yeah.
No one, like everyone was giving out about that game. No one enjoyed it. So is it just a change of venue for these two teams, maybe in the semis or the quarters, just to get that rivalry excited again, Aaron? Because my God, we had some very, very good games of football between them two teams over the years.
Yeah, look, like, and I remember, I think after the Dublin Meath game, and I was making a video and I kind of giving my thoughts on the game, and I think a Dublin fan kind of summed it up in many ways in the comments down below. He was saying, in many ways, Dublin fans actually miss Meath a little bit, because they miss that rivalry as well. And,
yeah.
It is an interesting thought. Like, don't get me wrong, we love beating them 21 points. Like, it's a huge win, but at the same time, it does take that kind of, I don't know, like that kind of, occasion out of it in some ways. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. I 100% agree with that. And like there would be no better feeling like than seeing just a Dublin Meath game, because it's such a good rivalry. Just if you're watching on the box and you just whatever situation it is, and there's 3 or 4 points in it, and the players are going toe to toe. There's big hits. There's scores going over from all angles, and Meath have forwards capable of doing that. Dublin have forwards capable of doing that 100%. Just toe to toe, because it's doing no one any good. Because everyone in a GA calendar, GA fan, me myself personally, absolutely love them two teams going toe to toe. And just the last couple of years, the sting has gone out of it. And you'd love to see it just being renewed again. And maybe as that Dublin fan that commented, like they would miss Meath, because getting Dublin Meath, like, and Dubs winning by 17 or 18 points back in 04, 05, that would have been absolutely unheard of. So the fact it's got to that stage, like, I know this Dublin dominance and everyone suffered a cruel defeat against them, but just to try get that back and that kind of love for that rivalry would be fantastic, Aaron, because it's a damn pity, because it'd just be great to have it back again,
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think Jack McCaffrey even summed it up in some ways as well, kind of from a Dublin point of view. Anyway, like on the Bernard Brogan podcast, he was talking about how they see Meath coming up at underage level and minor level. They see the young players that are coming through, and they always believe that at some point Meath were going to rattle us a bit. They were going to give us a big test. So I think, like, when you look through like some of Dublin's wins over Meath, like, I think it's not too much of a coincidence by the high margin that Dublin have scored. I think they've treated Meath with a lot of respect. They believe they're going to come in, give their A game. They're going to give us a tough battle. And unfortunately for Meath, in some ways, like, they've just thrown the towel in my opinion, in 2019 and 2020. And I still think they can do better. Like, they definitely have the players to do it. Like, Jordan Morris looks like a phenomenal young player. Matthew Costello coming through. Cathal Hickey, I think someone mentioned in the comments down below, is a young player coming through. So they have a lot of very good talent there, a lot of very good young players. So who knows over the next couple of years? Like, we'll have to wait and see. I think, though, ultimately, though, it's hard to really see when they're going to beat Dublin anytime soon, realistically. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. And like, it's like any other county, when will this Dublin team be bet? But yeah, it's an awful shame, Aaron, because it's a massive rivalry, and the fans, like you've seen yourself, you've seen the buzz that Meath fans thought they had going into that Leinster final. Like, everyone was thinking, oh geez, the young lads might do it. Like, even the hype we had against you, playing you against us, and obviously that got shot down. But like, Meath, that's what I mean. I think it's just that kind of belief that they have in, because I keep saying it's a mad footballing county, but it's just that bit of belief that they always have, that they can go, because they always had the forwards that they believe that could get them over the line. But with that 2020 final, it just goes to show how far the gap is. When that gap will be closed again, as you say, I'm not sure. Will it be another couple of years? And it's just, it is a dying shame, because at the end of the day, what it's looking like at the minute, I think Joe said it to you a couple of weeks ago, Dublin is a professional outfit in every shape and way of form. Meath's not. I know these young lads coming up, but are these young lads that'll, take it up against this Dublin team in the next year or two, next 3 years? I'm not sure, because we've seen the Leinster final, even 2019 as well. Meath still are a hell of a way distance from it, Aaron, and the Dubs are just going to keep getting stronger, I think.
Yeah, and I suppose another rivalry, I think, like from myself as the Dublin point of view, is the Kildare one as well. Like, just to kind of touch on that one briefly, like, obviously, 2009, the Leinster final is always one that stands out for me. The best Leinster final I've ever seen anyway. Bernard Brogan was unplayable that day, probably gave his best ever individual performance. And like, looking through that Kildare side as well, like, they Dermot Early in the team, Johnny Doyle, young Daniel Flynn was coming through. Like, so many talented players in that Kildare team. But I suppose, look, listen, at least Meath are they're getting to finals, they're getting the better of Kildare. Kildare they've really fallen off the boil the past couple of years, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I think the problem with Kildare is, I think it's kind of gone up in air since Kieran McGeeney left, and that's, what are we talking, 7-8 years ago, and they've really regressed. And a lot of players have mentioned that to me in the past, and that is it probably is a rivalry. Probably in the early days in 2009, as you were saying, Brogan just shot the lights out. I think it was 2010. I think Bernard Brogan got the last minute free as well, against Kildare as well. So just small margins, but definitely the last couple of years, Dublin have piped them out again. So has it got to a stage, and I know a lot of people keep calling for it, just to maybe take Dublin out of Croke Park and bring them down to Newbridge, bring them down to Navan, and tighter surface, and obviously home grounds for Kildare Meath. But has it got to that stage, Aaron? Because like, every time a team or any of them Leinster teams come up against Dublin and Croke Park, it's just embarrassing. Like, you've seen over the years, like, and it's just there's no interest for it. Like, and it does no one any good to them kind of results, because when Dublin playing Kildare 15 points again, no one gives a toss. Like, and the interest in Leinster's not there at the minute, because Dublin's dominance is just overpowering them. But as you said, 2009, 2010 brought up some great games. As you said, Johnny Doyle, Dermot Early, peak of their powers. Two lads that probably deserve more success out of the careers that they had, I definitely think. But again, I just think it's probably for another podcast, but I think when teams come up in that Leinster competition, get to the quarterfinals, get to the semi-finals, and know fine well Dublin's going to win the Leinster, it's just such a shot in the foot, because you really set out at the start of the year to have a good run in the championship and aim towards the championship. But at the end of the day, when you're in Leinster, you're coming up against the greatest team of all time, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting one, and back to what you were saying as well. Like, I'd definitely be up for taking Dublin out of Croke Park, be it going down to Newbridge and Kildare or Meath or anything like that. Like, personally, I don't think it will make too much of a difference. It might make the game closer. I personally like to see them do it when there's actually fans, just so those home teams like Kildare and Meath can actually get a full crowd at their games, because if they were to test it out now in a stadium with no fans, I really couldn't see too much of a difference. I think the Newbridge thing against Mayo, like when Kildare beat Mayo, I think the fans had a massive part to play in that. But who knows? Like, we'll have to see what the GA are doing. There doesn't seem to be much appetite for it at the moment, from what I'm hearing. So we don't really know at this point. I suppose Meath and Kildare, like, they've obviously had a few tussles down the years. Meath and Louth as well. Like, you can't forget that infamous 2010 goal as well. I know Joe Sheridan was talking a bit about that on the podcast recently. Like, you can't forget that, I suppose, as well.
No, you can't. And yeah, I was talking to Kevin Riley about it as well, and it just seems to just be such disillusion moments about it as well. But just probably wasn't a great way to win a Leinster title. And it's sad to think that was the last two teams that didn't involve Dublin that was in the Leinster final, really, Aaron. And yeah, like, it's a moment that'll always stand out. And I think it's probably still a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of Louth fans, because it's first Leinster final in God knows how long. And yeah, like, it just goes to show. And it's probably unfortunate that Joe probably still has to kind of go on about it to a certain extent, because what are we talking, 11 years on, and it's still a big moment in his career. And Joe had a good career, he's a great player, but that's probably one of the biggest moments in his career, throwing a ball over the line in Leinster final to win a Leinster final. And I know we're still remarking on it, but it just goes to show how big of a moment it was, Aaron. Can the likes of Meath and Kildare, can they get that rivalry going again? Like, I know when the two counties come up against each other, it's a very hard game to call, but that just all depends if Kildare can kind of get their house in order again. Like, I know Jack O'Connor's gone up there. Is Jack O'Connor the answer to the problems? I know he's a fantastic tradition of winning All Ireland with Kerry, but is he the problem solver for Kildare? Like, as I keep remarking on, is there not being done at grassroots? Is there not coaches around the county? What's happening in Kildare? It's hard to know, but I keep saying it. Our county's getting disheartened by this Dublin dominance. Like, are a lot of counties just throwing in the towel within Leinster? And is that why there doesn't seem to be much of an appetite to play for Kildare these days, as we have seen a lot of players dropping away from the panel?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could play a part, all right. And look, listen, like what I was saying before, I think obviously something does need to be done, obviously, about Dublin's dominance. I do think the likes of Kildare and Meath, like, I think they're doing the right things over the past year or so. But I'll always look back to 2018. Literally on the same day, Kildare got beat by Carlow, Meath got beat by Longford. That was only 2-3 years ago. So I think Rome wasn't built in a day, and I think I know Kildare have a couple of young players coming through, like Derek Kirwan, Jimmy Hyland looks quite bright, and like Meath, we were kind of saying a couple of players as well. Like, hopefully, like, even for myself as a Dublin fan, like, I want those rivalries to come back. Even Dublin versus Laois back in the 2000s, like Dublin Westmeath. Like, I have a lot of family from Westmeath. They always remind me about 2004. But look, listen, there's definitely been a lot of very competitive rivalries in Leinster down the years, and hopefully, anyway, we can get back to them at some point. I suppose before we finish up, I seen you set up a new podcast, the JMac Podcast. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning it, Aaron. Yeah, no, look, I'm delighted. It's been absolutely fantastic so far. It was a no-brainer for me. I think the lockdown, as I keep saying, and I keep beating the drum, it's a fantastic time to start something new. I'm really enjoying it. I love talking to people. I love communication, hearing everyone's story, and what an angle I will probably try to go with it. I know it's kind of GA and orientated at the minute, but try to get all sorts of guests on, whether it be mental health, whether it be absolutely anything, soccer, music. I'm really kind of trying to mix it up, hurlers, absolutely everything, and it's really enjoyable, Aaron. I'm really enjoying it, and I suppose I was involved with Paul in the back door. He's doing fantastic work, but I really just thought to myself, I give something to go by myself. You're doing fantastic work here with GA Fan TV. So no, I always thought I'd like to do it. I've been at it. It's been a month in the work in the last while. I've had some great guests. I recorded two today with Jackie Hurley from RTE and Aisling O'Reilly from Newstalk. Two fantastic people. They'll be up in the next couple of days, and just really enjoying it, Aaron. Always something I wanted to do, chasing a dream. Orga Retroware came on board to sponsor the podcast. He's an absolute gentleman. I can't thank him enough. And it's going great, Aaron, and long may it continue. And I'll 100% have you on down the line.
Perfect. Yeah, no bother. I'll definitely look forward to that anyway. And yeah, good work anyways. And I'll link it down below for anyone who wants to check it out. And look, listen, cheers anyway, John, for coming on.
Aaron, no problem at all. Thank you.